Have you ever wondered what went wrong that caused Russia's catastrophic economic collapse? Is it the Ukraine war? No doubt this conflict has had far-reaching consequences and led to a dramatic decline in Russia's economy. In this video, we'll look at how the war between Ukraine and Russia triggered an economic crisis in Russia that affected every sector of society. We will also examine the actions taken by the Russian leadership to address the crisis and what the future might look like for Russia. By exploring these topics, we can gain a better understanding of why this conflict led to such a severe economic collapse. Are you ready to explore all this and much more? Then hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell icon so you can keep up with our latest content. Let's get started. Russia has had a long and checkered economic history, dating back to the 9th century when it adopted Christianity and established itself as an agricultural state. In the 19th century, Russia was one of the most industrialized countries in Europe, with a rapidly growing population and strong internal markets. The Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 saw sweeping changes to the Russian economy, including the establishment of a central planning system and the nationalization of key industries. This led to a period of rapid industrialization and economic growth until the mid-1980s, when stagnation set in as state control weakened and market reforms were slow to take hold. In 1991, following the collapse of communism, Russia undertook a radical program of economic liberalization and reform, transitioning to a market-based economy. Since then, Russia has experienced periods of economic growth and decline as it continues to develop its economy. In recent years, the country has developed into an energy superpower, with vast natural resources driving growth in many sectors. However, as soon as Russia began invading Ukraine at dawn on 24 February, things took a drastic turn for Russia and its economy. The conflict in Ukraine is taking place on two fronts: a physical front, where Russia is using military force, and an economic front, involving contracts and agreements between various entities such as nations, banks, and businesses. Both of these constitute separate battlefields in the war. Despite Russia's military advantage over Ukraine on the physical battlefield, they are facing defeat on the economic front thanks to a Western alliance. The US and several European countries have recently imposed unprecedented financial penalties and sanctions on Russia, causing a financial disaster in the country. This is a major turning point in the conflict. In a major blow to Russia's financial sector, the US and several European countries announced their intention to disconnect several Russian banks from SWIFT, the global financial platform used for interbank communication. This has significantly hindered the trading capabilities of these banks and could lead to a loss of confidence in them as a safe place to store money. This move could have far-reaching consequences for Russia's economy. Additionally, announcing that they would freeze Russia's foreign funds was the US Treasury and the ECB. Why does that matter? To support the ruble during a crisis, the Russian central bank has hundreds of billions of dollars on hand that it can convert. Russia's biggest tool in the case of a currency crisis is being taken away from it by the US and Europe by freezing the reserves kept in Western banks, thus warning Russia, "Your assets are momentarily worthless. You don't have $300 billion worth of assets, you have $0." Despite its geopolitical tensions with the West, Russia plays a significant role in the global economy as a major exporter. Its exports, including oil, gas, coal, and wheat, go to a variety of countries around the world, including Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. However, the recent sanctions imposed on Russia have effectively cut off the country's access to global markets, disrupting its reliance on international trade. Since a large portion of Russia's economy depends on exporting gas and oil, particularly to the West, its economy has been severely impacted by these sanctions. This is uncharted territory in terms of economic policy, as no country has ever faced complete global economic isolation like this before. It is difficult to predict the full extent of the consequences, but there are already signs of bank runs and long lines at ATMs. The London stock listings of several Russian banks have plummeted by over 50%, and the ruble has fallen by over 30%, causing imported goods to become significantly more expensive. This situation is unprecedented, and the outcome is uncertain. Moreover, on December 5th, a price cap on Russian seaborne oil at $60 per barrel was implemented by the European Union, G7, and Australia, signaling a new stage in the economic conflict between Russia and the West. As the impact of sanctions began to be felt and food prices rise due to soaring inflation, Russian families are feeling the strain at the grocery store. With wages remaining stagnant in a slowing economy, consumers are struggling to keep up as their purchasing power decreases. The situation is expected to worsen as supplies run low, sanctions are implemented, and buyers adopt tactics that could further drive up inflation. For instance, according to government data, sugar is 2/3 more expensive than it was a year ago, while fruit and vegetables have seen a 1/3 price increase. Overall, food prices have risen by 1/5, double the increase recorded in the U.S. in April. Pasta has seen a nearly 30% price hike compared to last year, and cereals and beans have become 35% more expensive. Russian workers are struggling to keep up with rising costs as their wages fail to match the pace of inflation. This has led to a 1.2% decrease in real disposable incomes in the first quarter of 2022 compared to the previous year. As the economy is expected to shrink by about 10% this year, it is unlikely that pay increases will improve the situation for workers. On top of that, scholars at Yale Business School reported that over 1,000 international companies had either reduced their operations or completely ceased doing business in Russia by the 8th week of the war. It is expected that even more companies will follow suit. While the closure of luxury brands, such as Aston Martin or Burberry, may not have a significant impact on most Russians, the unavailability of repair and replacement items from tech and manufacturing companies like Apple, Bombardier, Boeing, DuPont, Ericsson, Intel, and Analog Devices has hurt labor productivity, consumers, and the supply and production chain of Russian industry. These departures have also resulted in hundreds of thousands of additional Russians becoming unemployed. In the long term, with Putin and the Duma threatening to seize the assets of companies that have quickly left Russia, it is unlikely that foreign investors will return in the near future. It is estimated that following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, a significant number of Russian citizens and residents have fled the country. According to reports, over 300,000 people had left by mid-March of 2022, and this number had grown to around 500,000 by the end of August 2022. In the following months, an additional 400,000 people are believed to have left, bringing the total number of departures to approximately 900,000. The consequences of this mass exodus are far-reaching and multifaceted. One major impact is the shortage of skilled workers in a variety of fields. This is especially concerning as the country is already facing a shortage of qualified professionals in certain sectors. The loss of so many skilled workers is likely to have a detrimental effect on the country's productivity and competitiveness. I used to hire and pay salaries based on expected growth, Mr. Shevchenko said. However, he claimed, the clients have cut their spending, postponed signing new contracts, or cut deals. The scariest part in business today is that project development is on pause, Mr. Shevchenko added. Despite threats of arrest and a strong police presence, Russians across the country held protests against President Putin's decision to draft additional forces for the military operation in Ukraine. There is a resentment among the soldiers that they have not delivered what they were promised. By nightfall, over 700 people had been detained in various cities, with the majority of arrests occurring in Moscow and St. Petersburg, according to human rights group OVD Info. These demonstrations took place as the Russian people continue to deal with the effect of the Kremlin's order to call up an additional 300,000 troops for the military campaign, which President Putin has described as a partial mobilization. I haven't heard the word war out of Putin's mouth, and if there is no war, then how can we have a mobilization? Said Natalia Zarina, a retired university professor in an interview with NPR. The idea of war with Ukraine, pushed by President Putin, has had dramatic consequences for the Russian economy. Not only have sanctions crippled many industries, but the country's already slow economic growth has been further hindered by political tensions and instability. In conclusion, it is clear that President Putin's aggressive policies posed a major threat to Russia's economic prospects and have already had devastating impact. Even if the tensions were to dissolve, it is unlikely that the economy will recover anytime soon. In short, Putin's idea of war with Ukraine has undeniably led to Russia's economic collapse. What do you think? Will Russia be able to conquer Ukraine and stabilize its economy, or is it only the start of its fall? Share your opinion with us in the comments section below. Do consider liking and subscribing to our channel for more interesting videos like this, as it helps immensely in providing you with quality content. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.